Elaine sat on the worn, beige couch, folding a pile of clean laundry. The TV was on, but the volume was low. Her hands moved steadily, but her eyes looked tired. She had been living here for months, ever since her husband, Michael, passed away. This was their home, the place they had built together. The front door slammed. Marcus, Michael's younger brother, came in with a handful of mail and bills. His face looked tense, jaw tight, brows pulled together. He tossed the stack of envelopes onto the coffee table. "Look, this isn't working," he said sharply. "You've been here for months, and you haven't paid for anything. This isn't a shelter." Elaine paused, then slowly looked up at him. Her voice was soft but firm. "This was Michael's house. My husband Marcos let out a short, bitter laugh. And Michael is gone. This is my house now. You need to start contributing, or you need to leave." Elaine blinked but said nothing. She looked at the bills on the table, then back at Marcus. From the hallway, Tasha appeared. She leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. She didn't speak, but the look on her face said it all. She agreed with her husband. The room fell quiet. The only sound was the low hum of the television and the soft rustle of clothes in Elaine's hand. She didn't argue. She didn't cry. She quietly folded the last shirt and placed it on the pile beside her. She stood up slowly, picked up the basket, and walked into the small guest room that had become her space. Once inside, she closed the door gently behind her. Then she sat on the edge of the bed, staring at nothing. Her heart ached, not just from the words Marcus had spoken, but from how quickly she had gone from being a wife in her own home to an unwanted guest. She took a deep breath and held it in. She wouldn't let herself fall apart. Not yet. But something inside her shifted. For the first time in months, she knew she couldn't stay here forever. And maybe, just maybe, she didn't have to. Former nurse who quit to care for her terminally ill husband, Michael, for 4 years, Elaine had once lived a simple, steady life. She and Michael had built something quiet and strong together. They didn't have children, but they had love. And for Elaine, that was enough. When Michael got sick, everything changed. At first, it was little things, hospital visits, medication, doctor appointments. Then it became constant care. Elaine gave up her job to be with him full time. She watched him get weaker each day. It was painful, but she stayed by his side. For 4 years, she did everything for him, even when it broke her heart. When Michael passed away, everything felt empty. There was no will, and no real savings left. Most of what they had went into hospital bills, treatments, and eventually funeral costs. Elaine was too tired and numb to think about what came next. She just stayed in the house. It didn't feel like home anymore, but she had nowhere else to go. Legally, the house went to Marcus, Michael's only brother, since there was no will. At first, he didn't say much about it. He let Elaine stay. But once he married Tasha and moved in with her, the atmosphere changed. What once was quiet and respectful became cold and uncomfortable. Marcus and Tasha treated Elaine like a guest who had overstayed her welcome. They never said it out loud at first, but their actions spoke for them. They barely spoke to her unless it was to ask for something. Tasha, in particular, looked at her like she was in the way. Elaine felt stuck. She had no money, no job, and no strength to fight. Her nursing license had expired during the years she spent caring for Michael. Renewing it felt like climbing a mountain. She spent her days applying for jobs online, anything she could find. But most employers wanted current credentials. She got rejection after rejection. The only thing that brought her peace was the small garden Michael had made for her in the backyard. It was where she planted herbs and flowers, watered them every morning, and spoke to Michael in her heart. It reminded her that something still grew, even after everything else had fallen apart. Her friend Karen called her every couple of weeks. They used to work together in the hospital. Karen was always warm, always encouraging. "You need to take care of yourself now, Elaine," she'd say. "You gave everything for Michael. It's okay to start again." Elaine appreciated the calls, but the idea of starting again felt impossible. She was tired in a way that went beyond her body. Grief weighed heavy. She didn't want pity, and she didn't want to ask for help. But each day she stayed in that house, with Marcus's sideways glances and Tasha's silent judgment, the walls felt smaller. There was no welcome left for her there, no comfort, just memories and quiet pain. And yet, somewhere deep down, something in Elaine refused to give up. She didn't know what the future looked like, but she hadn't lost everything. Not yet. There was still a small voice in her, whispering that maybe she could find a way out. Maybe she could. Elaine comes home one afternoon to find her belongings packed into garbage bags and left in the garage. At first, she stands still at the door, staring. Her bags, nearly a dozen of them, are lined up like trash. Some are torn open slightly, with pieces of her life spilling out. A framed photo of her and Michael, a pair of old slippers, a small Bible with worn edges. Her hands begin to shake. She steps closer and opens one bag. Her clothes are stuffed inside, wrinkled and smelling like dust and oil. In another bag, she sees her nursing books, her journal, and the broken mug Michael once gave her. Footsteps echo behind her. Marcus stands at the door, arms crossed, face stiff. "Tasha's pregnant," he says, like that explains everything. "We need the space." Elaine turns to face him slowly. Her face is pale, eyes glassy. "I found you a motel not far from here," Marcus adds. "You can stay there a few days. I paid for the first 3 nights. After that, it's on you." Elaine doesn't respond. She looks past him, where Tasha stands in the hallway, avoiding her eyes. Turning back to the bags, Elaine sees a cardboard box marked Michael. Something about it feels sacred. She kneels, opens it gently. Inside, she finds old documents, greeting cards, and tucked beneath them, a sealed white envelope with her name on it, handwritten in Michael's familiar neat print. She hesitates, then opens it. Inside is a notarized letter. Her breath catches. Her eyes scan the page slowly. It's official paperwork. Months before he died, Michael had named her as co-owner of the house. It had been filed properly, stamped, signed. Elaine's heart pounds. Her hands stop trembling. She reads it again, then lowers the paper into her lap. The sadness in her chest begins to shift. What was once pain now feels like something stronger, steadier. She stands up. Her eyes meet Marcus's. She says nothing, just walks past him, holding the letter. Inside the house, she sits at the kitchen table and lays the envelope in front of her. She's not a guest here. She's not helpless. Michael had left her more than memories. He had left her the power to take her life back. She visits a legal aid center. A young attorney, no older than her godson, flips through the notarized paperwork with steady fingers. He reads quietly for a few moments, then looks up at Elaine with a small nod. "This is solid," he says. "Your husband filed the transfer legally. You're a co-owner of the house. Half of it belongs to you. No one can legally evict you." Elaine lets out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. For the first time in months, something inside her feels anchored. "You should also get the deed verified through a title company," the attorney adds, "just to be safe." She thanks him, gently folds the papers back into the envelope, and walks out into the warm Houston sun. The air smells different today, like hope. The next day, she visits a title company downtown. After a brief search, the woman at the counter looks up from her computer and confirms it. Elaine Walker is listed on the deed. Her name is there, in ink, in record, in law. Elaine doesn't say anything to Marcus or Tasha right away. She moves quietly but purposefully. She stops cooking dinner, stops washing dishes, stops folding laundry that isn't hers. When they ask about it, she simply says, "I thought I was just a guest here." Then, one morning, they come home to find her things moved out of the garage, not back into the guest room, but into the master bedroom. Her bedroom, the one she and Michael had shared. She hangs her clothes neatly in the closet. She unpacks the box of Michael's things and places a photo of them back on the nightstand. She strips the bed, washes the sheets, and puts on the lavender quilt Michael had bought her for their anniversary. She breathes easier that night. The next week, she submits her paperwork to renew her nursing license. It takes time and effort, background checks, fees, online courses, but she does it. She wakes up early, studies in the morning, and takes walks in the garden. She doesn't ask anyone for help. A month later, she's working part-time at a local community clinic. It's not glamorous, but it's hers. And the first time she puts on scrubs again, she sees herself in the mirror, tired but alive. She buys a new blouse, then a new pair of shoes. She starts wearing lipstick again. She laughs more during Karen's phone calls. Slowly, the weight of the last few years starts to lift. But the shift doesn't go unnoticed. Marcus storms into the kitchen one evening. "What's going on with you? You act like you own the place now." Elaine looks up from her tea. Her face is calm. "I do." He blinks. "Excuse me?" Elaine stands and walks over to the drawer, pulls out the envelope, and places the notarized letter in front of him. She watches as his eyes scan the document. His face changes. Confusion, then disbelief, then fury. You knew about this all along. I found it the day you put my life in garbage bags, she says, voice steady. Tasha enters from the hallway, alarmed. Marcus? Elaine turns to her, soft but firm. If either of you tries to remove me from this house again, I'll go to court. And if I have to, I'll force a sale. You'll both have to leave. Marcus opens his mouth, then closes it. Tasha is silent. The room is filled with thick tension, broken only by the sound of the kettle whistling on the stove. Elaine walks over, turns it off, and pours herself another cup. Over the next few weeks, the tension in the house grows like a vine choking everything. Marcus and Tasha whisper more, argue behind closed doors. Elaine hears doors slamming. One night, Tasha yells about money. Another night, Marcus storms out and doesn't come home until morning. Elaine says nothing. She simply tends her garden, goes to work, and sleeps peacefully in her room. Bills start to pile up. Marcus's hours at work are reduced. Tasha, several months pregnant now, grows more anxious. She starts looking at Elaine with something different, not just resentment, fear. The power in the house has shifted. Elaine, the woman they thought was too broken to fight back, now walks with quiet confidence. She doesn't gloat, she doesn't scream, but her presence commands the space. Marcus tries once more, files a complaint with the HOA, accuses her of squatting. Elaine calmly forwards them the title documents. When they call, she answers politely, verifies her ownership, and thanks them for checking in. She begins planning her next step, not to run, but to rise. Because for the first time since Michael died, she's no longer surviving. She's reclaiming her life. Marcus confronts Elaine late one night. The house is quiet, the lights dim. A storm brews outside, soft thunder rolling in the distance. Elaine is at the kitchen sink, rinsing out a teacup when Marcus storms in, barefoot and tense. You waited all this time to pull this on me, he snaps, his voice low but sharp. Elaine turns slowly, towel in hand. Her eyes are calm. I waited to see if you had any decency left, she replies, voice even. Marcus lets out a bitter laugh. You think you're clever? Moving back into the bedroom, waving paperwork around like you own the place. I do own half the place, she says simply, and I've decided what to do with my half. He stiffens. What's that supposed to mean? Elaine walks over to the dining table and sets down a folder. She opens it to reveal a rental agreement. I'm not staying here, Marcus. I've seen enough, but I'm not walking away empty-handed either. He steps forward, frowning. I'm renting out my share of the house, she says. Legally, I have every right to do that. I've already spoken with a property manager. Marcus's face darkened. You're going to bring strangers into this house? With my pregnant wife here? At that moment, Tasha appears at the hallway entrance, her face drawn, hair messy. Her eyes are tired, deeply tired, and swollen with tears. No, Elaine says gently. I'm not bringing strangers in. I've already found a tenant, a young nurse I used to mentor. She's clean, respectful, and needs a safe place to live. Tasha lets out a soft sob and leans against the wall. I can't do this anymore, Marcus, she whispers. This stress, the tension. I'm tired. I'm so tired. Marcus looks at her, stunned. He tries to say something, but his mouth doesn't form words. Elaine doesn't gloat. She doesn't raise her voice. I never wanted a war, she says, her tone soft but unwavering. I grieved in this house. I served this family. I stayed silent while you stepped over me. She picks up the envelope from the table and tucks it into her bag. I was never the one tearing this family apart. Marcus sinks into a chair, hands on his head. The twist within the twist. Elaine reaches into her purse and pulls out a key. I'm not doing this out of spite. I've already bought a place, a small condo in Midtown. Nothing fancy, but it's mine. One of my church friends co-signed the loan. I move in next week. Tasha's eyes widen, and for a moment, there's something like relief behind the sadness. Elaine walks over to the kitchen counter, picks up her tea, and takes a quiet sip. I'm leaving because I choose to, not because I was forced. There's silence for a long moment, broken only by the ticking of the wall clock and the storm outside. Elaine walks past Marcus and Tasha, calm and steady. She pauses at the hallway. I hope one day you realize what you lost when you stopped treating people like family. She doesn't look back. Elaine moves into her new place on a quiet Saturday morning. The condo is small, just one bedroom, a narrow kitchen, and a little balcony that overlooks a row of trees. But it's hers. She sets down the last box, exhales deeply, and takes a slow look around. The space feels clean, fresh, and filled with possibility. No tension, no whispered arguments, no one watching her like she's a burden. Just silence and light pouring in through the window. That evening, she lights a candle, places Michael's photo on a shelf, and whispers, "We made it." Within weeks, Elaine begins working full-time again at the community clinic. The hours are long, and the work is hard, but she feels alive. Her steps are firmer now. She greets patients by name, hums softly as she stocks supplies, and earns the quiet respect of her colleagues. Her first paycheck goes toward clearing an old debt, the second towards savings. By the third, she's budgeting for a short weekend trip, something just for herself. Every Sunday afternoon, she volunteers at a local hospice, sitting with patients, reading to them, or simply holding their hands. It's not always easy, but it grounds her. It reminds her of Michael. It reminds her of her strength. Back at the house, things aren't so peaceful. Marcus and Tasha's once quiet life is now filled with tension they can't control. The tenant, the young nurse Elaine approved, is respectful, but she has a life of her own. Guests come and go. Music plays on weekends. She parks in the driveway, uses the kitchen, leaves notes on the fridge when groceries run low, and she pays her rent directly to Elaine. The house no longer feels like it belongs to Marcus and Tasha, because it doesn't. Not completely. The financial pressure is building. Baby supplies, groceries, bills, all weighing on them. They consider selling the house, but they can't do it without Elaine. And now, Elaine controls the terms. When Marcus reaches out to talk, she responds politely, through email, professional, calm, boundaries clearly drawn. Tasha avoids conflict, but her silence is heavy. She walks slower now, more cautious. They're no longer in control. Elaine, on the other hand, is becoming someone new, or perhaps someone she used to be. She wakes up early and makes her own coffee. She reads on her balcony. She attends church again, smiles when the choir sings. Karen visits often. They laugh over old stories. "You're glowing," Karen says one afternoon. "I'm healing," Elaine replies. Finally, she no longer carries shame in her shoulders, no longer whispers when she speaks. Her peace isn't loud, it's steady. She's no longer surviving, she's thriving, and she knows now. Peace doesn't come from being allowed to stay. It comes from choosing to walk away, with dignity intact. Elaine sits on her small balcony, sipping tea, watching the sunrise. The soft golden light spreads slowly across the rooftops, warming her face. A gentle breeze rustles the leaves of the potted plants she's been tending. The world feels still, quiet, and full of possibility. She leans back in her chair, wrapped in a light shawl, and pulls her legs up beneath her. There's a calm in her eyes now, not just peace, but strength, a kind of strength that only comes from walking through fire and surviving with grace. Her phone buzzes gently beside her. She picks it up and smiles when she sees the name. Karen's voice comes through, light and teasing. "Still think you had nowhere to go?" Elaine chuckles softly, her voice calm and sure. "I had nowhere to go back then," she says, looking out at the rising sun. "But now, I built something, for me." She turns toward the sliding door behind her and walks inside. On the small coffee table rests a framed photo of Michael, smiling, strong, full of life. She picks it up carefully, holds it for a moment, then places it on the windowsill where the sunlight can reach it. She takes one more sip of her tea and stands quietly, her eyes on the photo. "I kept my promise," she whispers. "I kept going." Outside, the city begins to wake, but Elaine doesn't rush. She has time, she has space, she has her life back, and this time, it's truly hers. Sometimes, walking away isn't weakness. It's the first step to finding your strength. Know your worth, protect your peace, rebuild, even if it's from nothing. If Elaine's story touched your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories that inspire. Watch the next video to see another woman rise above betrayal and find her voice.